Instagram. Welcome to ARTV, your guide to current events within the aesthetic industry. I'm Vivienne Echendu, the vendor relations specialist here at Aesthetic Record, and thank you so much for tuning in to today's session where we support small businesses that are doing big things. Here to kick off our first show, I'm thrilled to introduce Tanya Patron, a nationally certified physician assistant injector with over 10 years of experience and the founder and CEO of Aesthetically Speaking and the brand new Lifti aspirator launching here today. Tanya, thank you so much for joining. Please share with our viewers a little bit about yourself, your brand, and also what you have in store for us today.
Sure. Well, thank you guys so much for having me on the first episode. This is very exciting. I have been a very busy woman for the past couple of years, so it's really nice to get some recognition for it. So yes, I've been an injector for over a decade. It's been a passion of mine. I've always loved aesthetics, even before I got into school. And so since I'm also a person who doesn't sleep a whole lot, I actually started my own business, which is for Lifti Aspirator, which I'm going to get into a little bit later. But I also own Shop Aesthetically Speaking, or better known as just Aesthetically Speaking, which is a store that we have here on Aesthetic Record Marketplace, where you can buy injector-inspired apparel, such as the shirt that I'm wearing right now. And I'm also the owner of a Miami-based aesthetics practice, which is called Selfie Aesthetic. Since I opened my practice, I actually signed up with Aesthetic Record about 3 months before I started. And I got familiar with the software. I was really impressed with the ease of sort of transitioning to opening my own first clinical practice. And it's been an amazing experience ever since. Luckily, with some of the features that they do have, I was able to sort of get by through this pandemic that we're all sort of dealing with right now, using their virtual consultations, using the marketplace. I'm also a fan of the marketplace. I don't just sell there, but I shop there as well. So it's been an overall amazing experience, and luckily we have Aesthetic Record to help get us through this right now.
What is aspiration?
So what exactly is aspirating is a common question, especially from patients and new injectors. The technique of aspirating is pretty simple. When you are sticking your needle into the tissue, you want to make sure that you're really not in a vessel. So the technique of aspirating is simply pulling back on the head of that plunger while it's in your hands to ensure that you are not inside of an artery or a vein. If you are not, you're going to see an air bubble inside the chamber of that syringe. And if you are, then you would basically be drawing up blood into the syringe, similar to donating blood or anything like that. It might not shoot in there directly, but you're going to actually see it fill up into the chamber, and that will let you know if you had a positive aspiration or not.
How does aspiration help and support new injectors?
So the technique of aspirating is a really great way to get your feet wet as a new injector. New injectors have a lot to overcome. First of all, they're usually very nervous about starting with injectables. It might be an exciting thing to do, but once you get your hands physically on a syringe and you've got a live patient in front of you, your hands can get a little bit shaky, you can get a little sweaty. There's a lot of nerves that come with that. So to add on to not only trying to perfect your technique for the first time, now you have to do this technique of aspirating as well. So it can be a little bit overwhelming. And I think that for a new injector, trying to make that process as simplified as possible is just going to help everyone to be safer overall.
What are some myths about aspirating?
So when it comes to the myths of aspiration, there's actually a few. Some people think that it's not effective. They are implying that it gives you a false sense of security. So some people just choose not to do it. It's also a technique that hasn't been accepted by the entire injector community. If you've been injecting for the past 20, 30 years and you've never aspirated, chances are you're probably not going to adapt to that right now. You don't maybe feel that it's necessary. But for new injectors and for certain practitioners that just want to ensure that extra layer of safety, the technique of aspirating is a great tool to have.
What are the cons of aspirating and how do you overcome them?
So there can be several cons to aspirating. First of all, how do you ensure that you are in the proper tissue plane to where you're injecting? Sometimes, you're pulling back on that plunger and where you intended to push product is not necessarily where you aspirated. So it can be a little bit tricky. So I think stability is definitely key. And that's the reason why I kind of came up with this invention, Lifti, was because what tools they had on the market, they just didn't really help to keep me stable. It would help me to perform the maneuver of aspirating, but I also had a difficulty and a struggle as far as keeping my hand secure and keeping that needle right where I wanted it every single time. So the invention of Lifti kind of came out of frustration, my own frustration, and I knew that I could come up with something better to at least get us to the next page so that we can get more people on board with this technique.
Give me the short story of how you developed the concept.
So a little short story on how Lifti came to be. I'm not only an injector, but I also educate. I teach every year at the Aesthetic Extender Symposium. This will be my 4th year there. And I do a private hands-on workshop. And I had a lot of patients, or sorry, not patients, but actually injectors asking me, well, how exactly is the best way to aspirate? And what I found is that it was really frustrating for me, not only to perform it as a beginner, learning to do that, several years ago, but also to teach it to people. It's a really hard and tricky maneuver to teach. And it's a lot to go over in, a 4-hour class when we're just trying to learn more about technique itself. So I came back to my office. I was really frustrated, and I opened up a drawer and I took out a Band-Aid, and I decided to put that Band-Aid over the back of the syringe, and voila, like the first prototype of Lifti was invented. And so here we are exactly 2 years later. I do have a patent pending on this because it does require certain medical components that I wanted to incorporate. It's also made here in the USA, so I wanted to make sure that this product stayed domestic. And I'm really, really happy with it so far, and I hope that the entire injector community can embrace this and use it for some good.
What are some tips and tricks for aspirating?
So tips and tricks for aspirating are pretty simple. You want to make sure that it's a technique you're incorporating pretty much anywhere. Don't get a false sense of security, and I'm going to repeat that in my favor this time. Don't think that you only should be doing it in certain places and not in others. I think you always have to be cautious of your vasculature, knowing your anatomy, and making sure that you're doing the best thing possible for those patients. The other trick is to make sure that whatever technique and whatever device you're going to use, that it is secure. So you don't want to have something where the piece is swiveling or it pops off or anything like that. So keeping your hand very stable and making sure whatever product you're using or technique, that you're being as stable as possible. So now that the Lifti has been securely fastened to the syringe, I'm going to show you how to use it for your patient. So you're going to place your thumb, fasten the Lifti right around the back, make sure it's nice and snug. You don't want it to be too loose or too tight. And then you're simply going to start to inject. Once you push the needle into your designated area, you're going to slowly just pull back with a little bit of pressure using only your thumb. This doesn't require much force at all, and it's a very simple step. If you feel like you're having a hard time, go ahead and refasten that Lifti and maybe push it down a little bit lower on your thumb so that your thumb is poking out a little bit like you see here. And that'll ensure that you have a nice grip so you can go ahead and perform proper aspiration technique. So I have with me here an entire collection of syringes. So this is a pretty huge arsenal of Liftis, and just showing you how many different options are available out there. So if you like to backfill your syringes and use this guy, you're more than welcome to. You can actually use it on a radius syringe. We've got our Restylane syringe here. It works really well on this. Even though the size of this plunger is much larger than the other ones, it still fits really securely. So this is my favorite one. And it also works really well on the new ergonomic handpiece for the Juvederm collection. And then you can even use it on some other ones. So if you're doing a sculpture injection and you want to aspirate, you're more than welcome to do it there as well. So thank you guys so much for having me on. This was really a great experience, and I'm really glad to be able to come in here and help educate on the importance of aspirating. And me and my little model, Amanda, we're going to go and practice our techniques right now. We're going to watch some aesthetic record webinars, and I wish everybody to stay safe and healthy, and I look forward to getting back to business.
Thank you so much, Tanya, for spending time with us today to share with us about the Lifti aspirator. And you guys, if you're current aesthetic record users, you can log on to market.aestheticrecord.com, where you can go onto Tanya's page and purchase your very own Lifti aspirator. And also make sure to check out Aesthetically Speaking, because they have these cute captioned shirts and apparel, and it's so cute. I want you guys to take a look at that too when you're shopping. They make really great gift options and will probably help support your rebranding when you open up. So definitely take a look at that. They also have brand new mugs in there in pink and black. And again, thank you so much, Tanya. Thank you all for joining us today. Make sure to tune in ever so often and visit Aesthetic Record Instagram, because we'll be launching a lot more content in days to come. Thanks again, you guys. Stay safe and stay healthy.